Hey there, Cheesemeisters. Welcome back to the Peach Pod After Dark. I am Jeff, and those are three words I enjoy: Marvin, Velma, and Provo. And joining me on the other end of the internet, my cuz-host.
I'm Leslie, and I love your body, Larry.
So you swiped from me just a little bit, just a tiny bit, because here's the deal. We're doing Fletch this week, guys, and I've seen this movie about 1.5 times. And we've seen it once, maybe, or was this it? First time?
This is my first time.
First Fletch. Okay. So Fletch is the 1985 masterpiece starring Chevy Chase, Joe Don Baker, the wonderfully delectable Dana Wheeler Nicholson, Richard Libertini, Tim Matheson, Gina Davis, I love your body, Larry, and Emmett Walsh. We're watching this in conjunction with season 2, episode 15, Euphoria, because Andrea thinks the reason that she's going to go to the rave is to uncover the underground drug scene in Los Angeles, which is what Erwin M. Fletcher is trying to accomplish in this movie. Our spelling connection is Emmett Walsh, who played Dr. Jellyfingers, and he is in an episode of Starsky and Hutch. And as previously discussed, though whether anybody heard it or not, I don't remember if we released it, but Emmett Walsh is he's like a Rosetta Stone for me for getting to watch shit I like that's related to Aaron Spelling. So because he's in this, he's in The Jerk, he's in Blood Simple, which is the Coen brothers' first movie. Like, he opens the door to lots of stuff.
Okay.
Fun. Yeah, which is kind of fun.
He's also our third victim on our hit list.
What do you mean?
Isn't he the third person to die since we started this podcast?
Oh, God, I lost track.
I think he's the third.
I don't know in what order he came in, because we were front loaded. Like, we had a bunch of because Mrs. Teasley died, and
what? When did she die?
Like right when we started, like a year ago.
Oh,
yeah. You used to know she was then because we hadn't gotten to Mrs. Teasley stuff.
Damn.
And I'm pretty sure Nat died right around the same time. So it's like we had a few.
I thought Joe Exotic died like soon after Luke Perry. I didn't know he died that recently.
I think it was pretty recently.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Doesn't that suck?
It does.
Some people that we're losing.
Yes.
I gotta click on Joe E here to see when he passed, because I think it was 22. So he was just before we started doing this.
Okay.
So yeah. So not quite. But there was somebody else who's died in the last year.
The dad from Ashes to Ashes, I thought.
Richard Round. That's hilarious. Okay, he's Shaft, first of all. Thinks Richard Roundtree is the dad from Ashes to Ashes. That's no one's first point of reference there. But I have a certain amount of pride in the fact that that's how you associate him. It's so demeaning to him as a performer and as a person who lived a life. God, is that wonderful.
And then obviously Matthew Perry.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and Matthew Perry. Yeah, we had a few. So yeah, it's been a rough run. We're just taking them out left and right. Our apologies.
Sorry.
Yeah, my bad. Didn't mean to kill a bunch of folks. Unless I did. It's hard to say with me sometimes. All right. So here's what Fletch is about. Fletch is a undercover reporter trying to get to the bottom of the drug scene on the beach in Southern California, someplace. I'm not sure if they ever say what town. His editor is up his ass, wants that story because they advertised the story, and you can't follow me here, Fletch. You can't advertise the story and then not run the story. You can't? Huh. So Fletch is trying to get the story, but Tim Matheson offers him a large sum of money to murder him because he's dying of bone cancer and he needs someone to put him out of his misery, life insurance, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So Fletch starts looking into it, discovers that's all bullshit, discovers that that the drug source on the beach is the chief, the police department, but that he's getting his drugs from Tim Matheson, who flies his plane back and forth to Provo every week, but uses enough gas to fly to South America and back.
Yeah.
And I always say to him, "What are you doing? You doing some of that stunt flying?" And he don't say nothing. He just gives me that look. Yeah, he don't say nothing. He just gives him that look. And he's bringing back the drugs, and he gives them to Gummy, and Gummy gets roughed up by the cops, brings him back to Fat Sam, who's sitting on the beach with nothing but reds in his pocket. You don't mean communist, do you, Sam? And it's all interconnected. Fletch brings it all down. It turns out that Matheson's plan was to kill Fletch, burn him in a car, and take off to South America with his real wife, Sally Ann Cavanaugh, his first wife, leaving Fletch's burned body in his car because they have roughly the same build from the waist up, one imagines. So that's what Fletch is about. I fucking love Fletch. So tell me how much you didn't love Fletch.
I have been racking my brain trying to figure out why I didn't love this movie like you do. And I think a lot of it comes down to the same problem I have with Bill Murray. I'm just not into these smug comedians of the 80s. And those two are some smug dudes. Like,
so that is one of the things that I wrote down, and not smug, because that's not the word that I used, but it's why there's a few reasons I think that this movie hits hard for me. Okay. And one of them is the value of smartassery.
Okay.
And you don't dig that as much as, like, I think, and I think that's fundamental to someone my age growing up watching the comedies we watched.
Okay.
Because all of those people that were coming out of Saturday Night Live and making movies were all playing a variation on a smartass. You know? Like Bill Murray is a smartass in Ghostbusters, but he's a different kind of smartass in Stripes. Still a smartass. Chevy Chase is a smartass in Fletch. Eddie Murphy is a smartass in Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
Like, it's this smartass archetype that is threaded through these comedies, and it's the smartassery that is so funny to me, where they're just taking the piss out of everything mid-scene.
But I love Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, but it's the same thing though, right?
I know. It's just how it's portrayed, I guess. Mm-hmm. His smartassery is more energetic. You know, he's not just laying back. Like he really, obviously what makes great art is not looking like it's hard or that it takes work. But the thing is, you see it from his skill set in a good way, you know, like you can tell he's putting the energy behind it. He's putting the work behind it. And maybe, I don't want to say Chevy Chase and Bill Murray aren't, they just,
characters are way more laid. I think the characters are lazy.
Yeah.
Like, yes, Axel Foley is much more outwardly energetic, you know, than is Fletch F. Fletch or, you know, Dr. Venkman. Although Dr. Venkman has some, like, he has a little bit of fire there, but it's all like, it's like wrapped up in gauze paper, you know, like it's sort of there, but.
I just realized something too. I feel like Axel has more to prove, and I relate to that need to prove yourself, whereas Fletch and Dr. Venkman don't feel this need to prove anything. Yes, they're like, obviously one is trying to prove like ghosts are real and we can get rid of them, and the other is trying to prove that like there's something fishy happening here on, you know, on the beaches. Mm-hmm. There's that obvious proof, but like they don't need anyone's approval.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know, they've got their boss in the EPA. You know, Frank is...
They both seem a lot more confident with like, listen, only I need to believe in me. Only I need to believe in this. It's fine. I'm just going to keep doing what I want. And I'm like, I do not know what that is like. And I dislike that I don't understand that.
Yeah, I could see that. It feels like the... like Venkman and Fletch always think they're the smartest person in the room.
Uh-huh.
You know, like their smartassery comes from side-eyed confidence.
Yeah.
I think a little bit. And Axel's a fish out of water. So that it's a whole different dynamic. He is also the smartest person in the room, but he has to prove it more.
He does.
You know, like I mean, we're talking a lot about Beverly Hills Cop, but that's fine because I think that as you texted me, that's related.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you know, Axel's the best cop in the story. I'm not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. And you know, he's the one who spots the armed robbery that's getting ready to take place in the Titty Club.
Yeah.
Did it! Boom! All right, listen, everybody. There's two people who are excited at the fact that I just said Titty Club. I got a text last night, as we were recording this, from someone I work with, Teresa. And it was her idea, credit to Teresa, to do Fletch, but not in conjunction with Euphoria. She said, please do Fletch. I love Fletch. And so last night she texts me that she is listening to our episode on, what did I say what she was listening to? I don't even remember.
Oh.
It was last week's.
The Color of Money.
Yeah, Color of Money. The one we just dropped. And she said that her husband heard us say the word boobs and was suddenly interested in the podcast. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. We are pro boob.
We are.
Peach Pod and the Peach Pod After Dark. Yeah, boobs are the best. And he wanted me to say titties at some point, which was a place you drew the line. And
boobies was the place I drew the line, which
boobies.
Now...
Oh, you said it!
I did. You know why I don't have a problem with tits or titties? Because of George Carlin.
Okay.
And one of my favorite things he said in that whole stand-up bit was like, tits shouldn't even be on the list. You're so right. It shouldn't be. Just the crestfallen nature of how he says it is so hilarious to me.
It's correctly sad about that.
But yeah, I don't want this to be too bro-y of a podcast, but I think we can be pro-boob and not be bro-y. So.
I think so, for sure. So that was a total digression, but Axel is the one in the Booby Club, who spots that there's going to be an armed robbery happening. And so, like, and you know, and fucking Taggart and Rosebud are just sitting there, you know, trying to have a club soda because they're on duty.
The dance he does.
Yeah, Axel's strip club dance is great, and I love it so much.
Thanks. Listen, I know it's going to sound weird, but my mom and I love acting out that bit when he's like, Phil, you're so where you been, man?
Where you been?
You changed, man.
I so loved that you did that silly little Axel dance, and I knew exactly what it was. I'm very happy about that. That brings joy to my life.
Yay!
Yeah.
That'd be funny.
So, for sure. So Fletch is a different kind of smartass than Axel is. And for you, it doesn't work as well.
No. It was almost too under the radar. I was like, why are you being so quiet with all of this?
Uh-huh.
You know, like, And I don't mind having to really listen, but when I imagine I'm going to have to really listen, I'm imagining it's going to be like Patrick Stewart doing Shakespeare.
Right. But maybe this is the Shakespeare of silly ass side quotes.
True. And I mean, immediately when I finished it, I was like, I'm gonna have to rewatch some clips because I know there's stuff I missed. I mean, but I will say I love some of the subtlety with like Dr. Rosen and he's dropping off the files and
yes,
that is really funny. And I think when Chevy Chase adds the physical comedy to it, then I enjoy it more.
Yeah. The Dr. Rosen penis scene is so funny because, like, first of all, they set it up by showing, and this is again shit you don't see on a 25-inch grainy TV in 1985. But all the doctors are Rosen something. Dr. Rosenbaum, Dr. Rosenberger, Dr. whatever. There's all Dr. Rosen. And so he's like, Dr. Rosen penis, Dr. Rosen, and Dr. Rosen. Just as he fumbles shit and drops it on the ground and creates a distraction. And that's the great thing about that gag is that it advances the plot. There's a reason for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just physical comedy for the sake of physical comedy. It's him covering up the fact that he's bullshitting this lady by creating chaos and confusion and mumbling the name. And then he gives her the stuff and he's able to get the information he wants because he's totally disarmed her by his big clumsiness. And that's one of the things I like a lot about this movie is that the silliness, some of the silliness is just for the sake of like the dream sequence where he's playing for the Lakers. It's just so bonkers. Like, but 6'5", 6'9" with the afro is one of the it's one of the funniest lines in the movie, and it has that sight gag of him like when they slow the video down, slow motion, biting the arm of the guy who's fouling him. Yeah. Like, it's so silly, but it's just I don't know. That shit works for me.
That's great. I'm happy. I'm jealous. I'm like, what is I feel broken, honestly, from this.
So here's what it is. Because you're laughing now. And that's the other thing that I think is why I love this movie so much. And I think why movies like this and Ghostbusters and Raising Arizona and all these movies get better the more you watch them. Although Raising Arizona is a slightly different thing because it's Coen Brothers and all their stuff gets better the more you watch it. But it's when you first watch the movie, it's not super funny. It's when you start talking about it with your friends and throwing the quotes back and forth that it becomes very funny.
And I just realized for me, in my generation, maybe not the entire generation, but like for me and when I was in high school, that was Napoleon Dynamite.
Sure, yes.
Like, that movie is really funny. However, when you watch it alone, the first time, it is not funny. And I thought, how is it so much funnier when we're all quoting it?
Yes.
Monty Python can kind of be similar in that regard. Like, it's so much more fun when you're either watching it with a group or you're quoting it with people.
Yep. Zoolander, Anchorman, Napoleon Dynamite. These are all movies that get funnier when you share the like of them with other people. And then you go back and watch it again and you pick up stuff that you totally missed the first time. Like, Napoleon Dynamite is a great example because my favorite interaction in that entire movie is one I don't think I noticed the first 3 times. It's when Uncle Rico is showing him the football video. It's not that. It's not the photo shoot. It's when Uncle Rico is showing him the football video. And they're all 3 sitting on the couch. And Napoleon says, "This is pretty much the worst video ever made," which is factually correct.
Yes.
And Kip says, "Come on, Napoleon, like anyone could even know that." Which is also factually correct. So it's that back and forth that's my favorite thing in the whole movie because it's got that stupid ass football video that he records. I know. By the way, shouts to Uncle Rico, who plays a pivotal role in later seasons of 90210.
What?
Oh
no. Just gonna attack
Yes.
someone.
Oh, you have no idea what Uncle Rico's up to in 90210. Followed by Napoleon just being like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
And Kip's just, Napoleon, like anyone could even know
Like
that.
anyone could even.
Your criticism is invalid because you've made it too broad.
I think that's the only kind of comedy I'm ever gonna get in because I mean, obviously you can't play up the humor. That's the hardest thing about comedies. You can't play for laughs. But like,
play it straight, yeah.
I truly have to find something that is this droll because it's the only way I'm gonna make people laugh.
I don't know, you can do that Eddie Murphy dance. That's pretty good. And you can pose like Uncle Rico, getting your picture taken.
You can do all the things that people have already done and made funny. I am good at that.
That's my whole bit. I mean, but that's the thing, I think, is that I have been quoting this movie with people for nearly 40 years.
Wow.
And it's become so much a part of my vocabulary. Like anytime anyone asks me, like, hey, do you want to do this or that? Irwin and Fletcher, you choose. That is my response almost every time.
Wow.
And it's shit like that. Anytime someone walks in a room that you think is going to be helpful, and you know that someone who comes in a room who is supposed to be helpful to the situation, but you know is just going to make it worse, I say, thank God, the police. Like it's shit like that, you know. It's well, this is where I knew my mouth would be. Like, oh, you want to eat here? Well, this is where my mouth is. Like it's that kind of stuff that is just part of the way I express myself now.
Yeah.
And when you throw that quote and someone else throws it back, or you know, when someone says the word poon and the next person says Comanche Indian, like you know that you're on the same wavelength with people. And it feeds on itself.
Yeah.
And so I think it's impossible for you to like Fletch as much as I like Fletch, having seen it once, disconnected from an entire generation of people who are also watching this movie at the same time repeatedly.
And I would so much rather be connected to Gen X. You all aren't made fun of as much, and it's great.
No, we're fucking ignored.
I know, and I'm sorry, but like, I'll take that. I've got two.
Here's the thing: we're ignored, but we don't give a shit. It's like
they're great.
It's a little ridiculous, but
justice for Gen X.
That's right. Shouts to us.
Give millennials.
So one of the things I thought about this movie this time that because now that we're like recording and talking about it, I look at movies and I try to think like, what's interesting about this? Like, what's worth talking about?
Yeah.
And the first thing that came to mind with this was how movies in like these kind of comedic movies are like, and by these kind I mean like the ones that were made like starting in the late 70s into the 80s are comedy / something else movies, right? Like Ghostbusters is a comedy horror movie. Beverly Hills Cop is a comedy cop
crime
movie,
Yeah.
crime movie. Yeah, this is like a comedy film noir kind of movie, a little flipped. There's not just like movies for the like just comedies for the sake of comedies. It's always like a character in a situation that is outsized or strange or propulsive in some way, where the comedy comes from that character interacting with the world around them.
Okay.
But they're slash movies.
Yeah.
And I'd never considered how much this is like a film noir, but twisted a little.
Yeah.
Because, it's a detective story. He's trying to solve this crime that he got pulled into the middle of. He's not necessarily qualified to do that. He's an investigative reporter, but he's not like someone who's used to having guns pulled on him. He's not a hard-boiled detective. He's an insurance agent. He's Fred McMurray in Double Indemnity. Like he's not a cop, but he's in this situation and he's having to solve a crime. Usually the flip at the heart of the film noir is that it was the woman and she was drawing you in and whatever. But in this case, it's Tim Matheson. Like he's the linchpin. He's the dishonest starting point for the noir. And then it's just a series of Fletch figuring it out. Like every scene is him interacting with another character that gets him one step closer to solving the mystery.
Yeah.
And I kind of love that. Like I love that the story moves itself along and that every interaction is funny and quotable and silly and has a fake name and all this stuff, but each one gives him a piece of the puzzle, but that by the end he's solved the whole thing and you don't even know he's doing it.
Yeah, it's
it's
pretty subtle, because there would be stuff that happened and I thought, what did he just glean from this, or like, where is this going, even though it's pretty clear the whole time. He's trying to finish this article, he's trying to figure out where the drugs are coming from, but at the same time, like, it's interesting that because obviously he got pulled into this other direction, and somehow he either found a way that the two were connected, or I guess that's where I'm foggy on it, is like, how did he know these two were going to be connected, or he just thought
he didn't
explore both at the same time?
He didn't know they were connected. Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't until he learns about the plane using enough fuel to get to South America and back that I think he puts together that Alan Stanwyck is flying drugs into the country.
Okay.
So before that, I think he's got it pieced together that the chief is giving Gummy the drugs and Gummy's taking the drugs to Fat Sam. I think he's got that. He doesn't quite know where the chief's getting the drugs. And then he sees the chief and Alan together and he's like, what? And then all of the Provo connections start coming in, and the Sally Ann Kavanaugh and and that's the dog that tried to buy my car and all of that stuff,
like
happens.
I know the dog is vicious, but I was like, good dog. That dog
opened the door. Like that dog opened a turn knob door with his mouth. So shouts to that dog.
Yeah.
And if this was at all legible, you could see that. Like that's, I don't know. I love like his case is built on like, here's a picture that you can't make out of this deed. Like I took a really shitty picture. It's just a flash bulb. Like that's all that's on here. But here's a picture of my rental car.
Oh, old days of photography. It's great.
We were watching that last night, and Laura goes, why did he take a picture of the dog? And I was like, so that the joke later works. Like,
yeah.
The entire point of it's my car. He tried to bite that too.
Which is funny. You don't see him take these pictures. I mean, you see him take a few, but you don't see him take a picture of the dog, I don't think.
You do. Yeah, because he's in the car and the dog's on the hood, barking at him through the windshield, and he does this. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. To blind the dog or whatever one does. When they're being attacked by a dog like that. So yeah, I like. Well, I mean, I don't think the camera would do much to calm Ember down. It's just it's doggy downers for her. That's all that it is.
She's sleeping.
Good for Ember. Sleep it out.
No.
Little dog Ember. This is also like there's this thing in 80s movies where, and we talked about it a little bit with Ghostbusters, where the bad guy was the Environmental Protection Agency.
Yeah.
Like, which is weird. And, and in Beverly Hills Cop, like he's fighting as much against the establishment of the police department as he is the, like Victor Maitland.
Yeah.
And, the Blues Brothers are fighting the police in their efforts to save their, the orphanage they grew up in. Have you seen the Blues Brothers?
I have.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Not my an orphanage. I knew they were on a mission from God.
That's right, from the Penguin. Yeah, Blues Brothers doesn't work as well for me. The music's phenomenal, and I'll watch it all day long. But it's super quotable, but I don't like the quotes don't really make me laugh.
That's fair.
But
it's
I like
more. There's situational stuff that's funny, like Ray Charles putting the poster up upside down.
Right.
It's really funny. It's awful, but it's really funny.
4-hole chickens and dry white toast. Jake.
I
would.
Yeah. Carrie Fisher.
Yeah. No, there's so much great stuff. There's so many great comedies that come out of that first Saturday Night Live cast.
Yeah.
That and then Eddie Murphy stuff was he's like he doesn't come in until 81, I think. Maybe he might come in right in 80. But like that early run of SNL folks, the movies you got out of them that weren't like the 1993 Conehead movie or whatever, they're so good. And they're like, what they are is they look back, because this is what boomers do, is they look back on the shit of their youth and they go, I really liked this. I liked cliffhangers and samurai movies. I'm going to make Star Wars. My name is George Lucas. I liked cliffhangers and James Bond movies, but I can't get the rights, so I'm going to make Indiana Jones. My name is Steven Spielberg. Like, I like horror movies, but I'm a comedian. I'm going to make Ghostbusters. My name is Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd. Like, all of these things are the things that they loved, played around with, and made funny. Mike Myers does the same shit with Austin Powers. Like, it's the stuff they loved as a kid twisted on its head. And these are based on a series of books that I've never read. But that's what they are. This is an old film noir made silly.
Yeah.
But the thing I was going to say about the bad guys is there's also this thing in the 80s about cops and drugs.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Like this and Beverly Hills Cop are both cops and drugs. And there's a lot of drug related stories in the 80s that are used to make the drama.
Yeah, and once again, stuff that is still a problem.
Right.
Being handled differently.
But
definitely still a problem. And I mean, I know people want to say things like 80s and 90s shit is vintage, and yes, it is, but it's still really not that far away.
Right.
It's not like watching stuff from the 40s and going, hey, that's still a problem. Like, wow.
But
it's a bit more disturbing.
Yeah. I mean, what's weird to me is like when I watched Fletch, that was like when I was growing up, it was as far away from 1945 as now is to 1985.
Oh, interesting.
So like when I was watching this movie, those Bogart movies are like, those seem old. They seemed old then. They didn't seem bad, but black and white. So there's a little bit of that. It's like, oh, this just looks way different.
I guess it's just it's the technological changes that make things look older, Yeah. I mean, and also people age a lot differently now than they used to.
That's very true.
So yeah. I think that's part of what ages things prematurely.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. And I think that like you can make Fletch look relatively present day just by making it HD. Like you clean it up and you're like, oh, this is bright and clear. And, the fashions aren't like 80s fashions, but like they're like, he's clearly not dressed. I don't know. To be honest, I think almost everything in this movie you could wear today. The suits fit a little weird.
You could. I think that's the great thing about, costuming. I think if you do it right, then you won't date it too much. I mean, we just watched Mean Girls, the musical, the movie musical. And I really didn't like what they did with the fashion, and my sister and I were talking about it, and she said, well, fashion has changed, and I went, yeah, but I don't think then maybe this needs to be a timepiece, because with the current fashions, the characters didn't stick out as much, the clips didn't stick out as much. Something like Mean Girls, I don't think works with today's kids, Like,
yeah, I don't know if you could, like, I was just thinking about the fashions and the identifier, the signifiers, and like, does Grease work if you don't put them in 50s outfits? If you don't put them in those the T-bird jackets and Pink Lady jackets and stuff,
no.
Like, does that work? Like, I don't know that it does. I think
Because
it is
are their
fixed.
armor. That's
Right.
That's how they feel cool.
And it's how you know who's who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is where, like, yes, you want your stuff to be timeless. However, I also think there's power in dated material.
Yeah.
I don't know how to finish that thought. Maybe that's it. I just think there's power in things that are dated, and like looking at it and going, oh, this was that time, but how does this compare to now?
Right. I think there's power in specificity.
Yes.
Like, if you can make something specific and make it feel like it's of a moment, then that anchors it, but that also helps it. If thematically it's timeless, then it can kind of stay timeless.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a thing that Stephen King talks about, where it's like, he doesn't ever want to say he reached for a pain reliever. He wants to say she grabbed a Tylenol.
Okay.
Because it's a real thing in the world that people know what it is.
Yeah.
And when you say pain reliever, that's like vague and dumb. But like, I know what taking a Tylenol is. It's much more of a tactile thing, and it anchors you in a reality.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're just like pain reliever, you're like, okay, yeah. I'd had a cola. Man, you fucking drank a Pepsi, and that's why there's this film in your mouth. It's so gross, and you don't like it. That's how I'm feeling. Well, I know what you the Pepsi. Okay. How about some adventures in intimacy?
Oddly enough, I struggled with this one too.
Borrow your towel? I just said a water buffalo.
I know. I love. See, but that's the funny thing. He flirted so subtly, and there wasn't until the end. There wasn't a relationship with them, and I mean, I thought that was good, because anything lesser than that guy would have been pawing all over her already, would have been making out with her, would have been nibbling on her neck while she's talking and not really listening to her.
Sure.
And I'm glad they didn't do that here. I will say, I think my favorite intimate bit was actually the old couple in Utah.
Oh, Marvin and Velma?
They're so cute. I mean,
they really are.
I don't know if they were a real couple or not, but they were just so natural with like their little pats on the knee. I think she leaned in to kiss him on the cheek or something. They had something established, and it was wonderful.
It's a
button. Like, oh, I got plenty of copies of this photo. You must.
Right. That's right.
We saw our grandparents in that. Well, maybe not.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, Pops. I think Pop and Grandma are pretty cute.
They were pretty cute. Not as overtly affectionate in front of us, but
no,
maybe you had more time with them.
Not that so much. What?
But yeah. Oh, she did. I wrote down, like, she did this cute little collar fix, which I love things like that. It can be easily overdone, but I mean, that is kind of like a good old school intimate trope to like show that you care. You're fixing something in their appearance.
Yeah.
So I like that. I
kind of like
there wasn't any forced intimacy between him and
Gail.
What's her name? Is that her name?
Gail Stanwyck. Yeah, Gail Stanwyck.
Yeah, even though they get together in the end, like, it was very easygoing. It was natural. They're just walking down the beach together. I think maybe there was a peck on the cheek or the mouth or something, but it wasn't like at the end of Ghostbusters where we haven't even had a date yet, but you just saved my life, so I guess I owe you a kiss, and people are cheering who don't even know us. Okay.
Right.
Do I get paid now? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas in this, you get, we have our own version of one-on-one, and she thinks I'm the bravest person in the world, which of course I am.
I love it.
Yeah. By the way, I charged the entire trip to the Underhills credit card. Want the number?
She's completely useless when it comes to basketball.
She's not so good as a basketball fan.
Same.
But I do like their relationship with one another, because she immediately calls John Cocktoaston on his bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, sorry, I don't remember at my wedding. No, that doesn't help either. And then, you know, she sees through him. She sees through him to something that's not really there, which is like one of Alan's old flyboy buddies. But she knows there's like a veneer of crap that is being presented to her. And she just keeps poking at it, but not so hard, because she kind of likes it.
Yeah.
Like, she enjoys his silliness, like, you know, borrowing her towel to clean up the water buffalo she thinks is funny. Yeah. And, you know, all of that stuff, she's totally into it. But there is no, I don't think there's a kiss.
I don't think so either. I think the only reason my memory is putting one in there is because it would have felt natural to me if there had been just like a quick peck, you know, right. Like they're just enjoying. You can tell they're just enjoying each other's company as they walk along the beach.
Right. Know? And and I think when she comes in to where the murder is going to happen at the end of the movie, and she sort of like puts her hands on his shoulder, and when he says from the waist up, I imagine they cut to her, and she just goes, like, she kind of looks at Stanwyck like, yeah, I kind of fucked him. It was okay. You know, this is what happened. You know, now that we know about Morris and Pierre Cavanaugh. See, this movie is funny when you talk about it. When you kick the quotes back and forth together with, you know, the Moon River.
You got your
fist there, Doc?
Yeah.
That's right. 1B, B-A-B-A-R. That's two. Oh, no, I thought you meant two right together.
Right together. Isn't this an children's book about elephants?
I don't know. I don't have any.
Children?
Elephant books. Yeah, it's silly shit, you know? But he bullshits his way through the entire. I mean, he has to get a little bit of up the pooper. But, you know, you suffer for your work sometimes. That's, you know, you put your heart and your ass into it.
Oh my God.
Hell yeah. All right. So, do we want to go to Cabana 1, which is just on the other side of Needle Drop Forest?
Oh, sure.
All right, so we had different thoughts about what the needle drop would be this week. So tell me what you looked at and what you were thinking about.
My first go-to, which is kind of redundant, was Dan Hartman music. Mm-hmm. That is what first came up for me. But then when I read your text messages, I started looking more into Harold Faltermeyer.
Yep, Harold Faltermeyer. Yeah.
Harold Faltermeyer. Yeah, and I was way more interested in his work.
Yeah, I mean, my one question about Hartman, because I didn't look him up, like in this movie, he does Get Out of Town, which is like the Chase song.
Yeah.
You know, which is an awesome 80s Chase song.
Yeah.
Like it is, like it's propulsive, and the lyrics are, I don't know, north to Alaska, south to Rio, east to Atlantic City. Like, okay, you're just saying cities and directions.
Yeah.
Get out of town, run through every red light. There's a train at midnight. Get out of town, get out of town. But did you find other things that he did? Because I don't know, like, what other things he did from other movies.
Oh,
Faltermeyer, I know.
I only looked up other stuff that because he did, I think, 2 songs in this.
Yeah, there was another one too I saw, but I didn't.
I was listening to Bit by Bit earlier.
One way or another,
I thought that was really fun.
Fletch is working overtime.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Oh, he also did Name of the Game.
Oh, okay.
Which.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
Doesn't pop to me. But yeah, Faltermeyer is, he basically, it was sort of three things in the 80s, but he did them so distinctively, and they all had sequels, that like he's very much a sound piece of the 80s. Like he did the music for Fletch and Fletch Lives. He did the music for Beverly Hills Cop and Beverly Hills Cop 2 and Top Gun.
Yeah.
And that's like, the score, not the, Kenny Loggins parts.
No.
Kenny Loggins did the Kenny Loggins parts, motherfucker. I will not have you sully the good name of Kenny Loggins in this house. That's what I'm saying.
It is funny that they linked up on Top Gun, since we have discussed Kenny Loggins before on this pod.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're both such distinctive sounds of the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all this real bouncy synth. And it's the perfect underbed for the things going on in this movie.
Yeah.
Like it's just I couldn't imagine this movie without that musical score. The same way I can't imagine Beverly Hills Cop without the music.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's so good. So big shouts to Harold Faltermeyer. We're not the first people to say that the score work he did in the 80s was foundational to our lives. Mine, because I'm, older than you. But boy, is it. I mean, he's just great. He's like the synthy John Williams. Like there's, that's a John Williams piece in Jaws and Star Wars and Superman and Jurassic Park and Harry Potter. Like those are recognizably John Williams. And Fletch and Beverly Hills Cop are recognizably Harold Faltermeyer.
Yeah.
It makes them very specific to the era, which is kind of what's fun.
It is. I feel like some of the rhythms kind of give me the vibe of old-timey journalist stories where like typewriters and
yeah.
I can't remember a theme off the top of my head, but there was something in the music that just it felt in line with old school journalism. And like, because in old movies about it, you see the running of the newspaper through the machine and going out quickly and like people yelling like, this needs to be right now, and
stop the presses.
Yeah.
I always wanted to say that. Right.
We're gonna watch it at some point. I don't know how, but I'll find a way.
We'll figure it out. I mean, Brandon and Andre are both journalists, so there's newspapers everywhere.
We gotta. Ooh, do the kids ever unionize?
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to think if there was any.
There's got to be a union fight at some point. I don't know where.
Yeah.
Maybe the Peach Pit people in the back are like.
Willie goes on strike.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. All right. So it's what else time? What else you got?
I'm Igor Stravinsky, and I would like some real estate. I don't know. I love the names. I loved the dropping of names because for the most part they were. I mean, it just speaks to how dumb Americans are.
So that's what I wanted to do for EST, but let's just do it now. We can just do it now. What is the best Fletch pseudonym? Here's the ones I grabbed off the top of my head this morning, and so I might be missing one or two, but I don't know that I am. Jane Doe, Mr. Babar with two B's, but not right next to each other.
Yeah.
Poon, Comanche Indian, G. Gordon Liddy, Harry S. Truman. He dropped two of them on him. Ted Nugent, John Cocktoaston, Scotch Romanian. It's an odd combination. So were my parents. Fletch F. Fletch, Dr. Rosenpenis, Dr. Rosen, Dr. Rosen. Which of those is the EST best pseudonym for you in this movie?
I mean, it's probably Dr. Rosenpenis.
It's really funny.
I guess the middle schooler in me is coming out finally because I'm like, that is pretty funny. But it's a bold move to say, "Oh, I'm Harry S. Truman."
My parents were big fans of the former president.
Yeah.
Well, Ted Nugent also. I mean, like,
I'm showing my age, but like,
okay, so Ted Nugent is a hard rock guitar player from the 70s. He had a couple of hit songs, Cat Scratch Fever and Wang Dang Sweet Poontang.
What the fuck?
But Ted Nugent is a massive MAGA head.
Oh no.
Like when you see, like, if someone gives you like the list of celebrities that are like big MAGA people, and you're like, yeah, I know about Scott Baio. Yeah, I know about Chuck Woolery. Yeah, I know Pat Sajak. Yeah, I know Ted Nugent. Like, I know Kid Rock. Like, you just he's one of the people on the list that you're like, yeah, I already knew that. You know, oh, Roseanne, really? Oh, shocking.
Yeah, right.
So that's Ted Nugent is that guy. He's a bow hunter. You know, like kills his own animals and lives off the land kind of thing, but also has like machine guns that he wants to shove up Hillary Clinton's twat and shit like that. Like, he's a fucking asshole. But his assholedness came out way after Fletch. So
got it. Well, now I know.
Yeah. I think for me it's John Cocktoaston. I just like that he's making up syllables as they fall out of his mouth. Yeah. And then later he doesn't even remember. He's like, what? Like, you can hear him mumbling at the door. I'm also a big fan of Frida's boss.
Yeah. Who's Frida?
She's my secretary. Yeah, so I think for me it's John Cocktoaston. But there's so many good ones to choose from, and in Fletch Lives he does even more. And Fletch Lives is not as good as Fletch, but it's got a lot of really funny stuff in it. So
sure.
definitely not a thing to. It's not a comedy sequel that's terrible. It's a comedy sequel that's pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, most of them are god awful.
Ask for.
Yeah, I know. I think it's almost the high end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Beverly Hills Cop 2, Great Muppet Caper. There aren't too many comedy sequels that are worth a damn. Fletch 2's funny.
Yeah.
Austin Powers' I Shag Me. It's pretty good.
It's funny.
Well, it's not a sequel, but that movie's great.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was my EST. Let's jump back to the what else and then come back for your EST. So we're making shit up as we go along here.
I have no
Fletch,
like, for what else? I mean, we I could talk about the fact that, and I'm sorry I don't know this actor's name off the top of my head, but he plays Norm on Cheers.
Yeah, George Wendt.
Yeah, I don't know why. I always like when I first look at him and I go, John Goodman, and then I'm like, nope, that's not him. You do this every time, Leslie. It's not him.
It's George Wendt. Yeah, there's a lot of people like that in this movie. Not that like you get them confused with other people, but that are famous for other stuff.
Yeah.
Like Jim Swarthout is the realtor that he goes and meets. Is played by the same guy who played Hi, I'm Larry. This is my cousin Daryl, and this is my other cousin Daryl. From Newhart. That's Larry. And he's very famous as that. And then he's also in Deadwood, and he's so good in Deadwood. Nice. So good in Deadwood. So he's like big in other stuff. Gina Davis is just like fucking Larry. Like, she's just in this movie to like, run down leads for Fletch, which is kind of great.
Gina Davis.
No, but it's awesome. Like that Gina Davis is in this and just like a thing, Joe Don Baker as the cop is great. Like, there's just,
Oh yeah.
and he's one of those guys who's in like 1,000 things. So it's like, I don't even know what you know him from, but you know him. Um,
That's the
so
dream.
yeah, Dana Wheeler Nicholson is only Gail Stanwyck.
She
Like,
looks
as far as
familiar too.
I mean, she's probably done other stuff, but like this is what she's known for, you know? Um, and then you get George Wendt on the beach, just Norman it up as Fat Sam.
Yep.
It's awesome, you know, like, and even Frank, Richard Libertini is a guy who was like in a million things in the 80s and 90s. Like, he was just in everything. So he's a face you see constantly. For me, he's Frank. Like, that's mostly what I know him as. But he's got such a distinctive face that you see him and you're like, oh, I know that guy. Like,
nice.
You know, there's Frank.
Yeah.
The what else that I wanted to talk about was the car chase.
Okay.
And car chases in general. I was doing a little. I found myself watching like a Turner Classic Movies little thing on the history of car chases in cinema.
Ooh.
And they were talking about Bullet, the Steve McQueen movie, which I have not seen, but it has like an iconic Streets of San Francisco car chase. Like one of the first modern day car chases. That's like, holy shit, you can do that in a movie. And then they talked about the French Connection car chase, which is it's Gene Hackman as Popeye Doyle in a car chasing a guy on the L above him. So it's like the car chase of the train and all these things he's weaving it. It's really good.
Nice.
And so there's these big dramatic ones, and they were talking about how in those two in particular, the score drops out. And all you hear is the sound of the tires and the shifting of the gears and the brake pedals and the, you know, all that kind of stuff to like build the tension.
Uh-huh.
And this does the opposite of that. It puts it on a big bouncy fucking soundtrack.
Yes.
Which is great. And because it's kind of a play on those car chases. But the other thing they said that I thought was really interesting in this video and what like applied here, I think, is how good car chases are about the character and they show you things about the character and not just two cars chasing each other. Mm-hmm. And they even went back to Ben-Hur and the chariot race.
Okay.
And how it like the chariot race is a little bit like it's like the race in Greece with the thing on the tire that's like going into so they're like the characters behave differently in like the guy chasing behaves different because he's a different character. He does this and that guy does that, and they're different people, so they drive in this chase differently. This does the same shit. It is a smart ass car chase.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, he gets into another car. He more or less steals someone else's car, which was also stolen. We find out.
Stolen. Yep. I'm not even sure that's a crime anymore.
Yeah.
But it's like he's like, oh, it's a little game we play. He slides around behind hey, there's Freddy. Hey, Fred, how's the herpes? Like, it's just he's just throwing out silly fucking things. Pull over. I already did pull over. Back there. I'll pull over again.
Yeah.
Like, it's a joke-filled car chase. And that's exactly what this character is. Like, it's a character-true car chase.
Yeah.
Even at the end, right? He's like, I put in some gum. It filters out the pollutants. And he like puts your right hand up, and he puts the hat on the guy's hand, and like it's all silliness. And then he goes on a foot chase through Fred. Or that's before that, right? Fred the Dorfman. Hug a cop.
Oh yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, which is such a brilliant scene.
Look at Fred. Because so much better since he acknowledges syphilis. His nose is down.
His face is coming back, and yeah, like
it's the cop from Clue.
It's the cop from Clue. That's right.
Don't you know that?
I don't know. Is that free? See, another movie that quoting it a million times makes funnier.
It was always funny.
It was, but it builds.
Yes.
You know.
Which, shout outs to my sister, did not know she was a Clue fan, and I got her listening to some Peach Pot After Dark, and she went, "Oh my God." Like, every time we went over, or anytime we were over at, yours and Michael's childhood home, then apparently Clue was on, and she remembered that, so.
Oh, we watched it all the time. So yeah, the car chase for me, and there, there were so many comedic car chases in, like, there's a big comedic car chase at the beginning of Beverly Hills Cop. There's the comedic car chase in the Blues Brothers where they drive through the mall, which is amazing.
And then it just falls apart at the very end. Like, anytime I've been driving a long ass time, I think of that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's great. Like, so your Beverly Hills Cop comparison, because I think you texted me, this feels like a poor man's Beverly Hills Cop. Basically. And I'm like, well, they are really similar. I mean, they're detective stories. There's smartassery. There's Harold Faltermeyer. There's comedic car chases. There's solving a mystery involving drugs. There's
from one person trying to find answers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He pulls in and tell Victor Maitland that that I have herpes simplex 10, and that he should get himself checked out before things start falling off on the man.
I think that would be best.
Yeah, they do. They both play up characters every time they go into a room to get the thing they want to get. They're just, and that's why they both work, I think, really well, because that is a funny way to tell a detective story.
Yeah.
To have the detective be a smartass who just takes on whatever identity suits him in the moment.
It's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, it's all ball bearings these days. Get these windows clean. There's filth muck on them. See, I'm telling you, watch this movie again. Now that we've talked about it,
yeah.
I guarantee you're going to like it more. You're going to think it's funnier. And every time you see it subsequently, you will think it's funnier. And it's just, these movies work great like that. They get their little hooks in you, and they just keep coming. Every time you watch them, they get funnier because that thing that they said is so great, and the way they did it, and because you can, drop that nonsense in the middle of a everyday conversation and perfectly express your sentiment in a very inside way,
I already have too many inside things, and then anytime I try to relate to other millennials or Zoomers, then they don't get what I'm saying. So
that's okay. Do you think people ever understand what I'm talking about? I mean, I think I probably have a person by person, I probably have a 30 to 35% hit rate.
Wow.
Because I just pull from so many different random things. I no longer expect people to get what I'm saying. I gave up on that a long time ago. So I'm very comfortable explaining the reference as I give it, because it's a helpful thing for me to do, because I know I'm going to do it later. I know I'm going to say this exact same thing later, but next time you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because I explained that one episode of The Simpsons,
That's true. I mean, listen, I'm only halfway through my 30s, so the trajectory towards caring less is slow going, but we're getting
there. Yeah. But it's not even about caring less. It's about just being like, this is just what I find funny.
That's true.
I find this funny, and if you also get it, then we're together.
Yeah.
Now we can talk. Now I know I can drop random nonsense at you and you're going to follow along. As opposed to, like, if I don't do that stuff, then I have to just go around not being myself all the time, which is like that's just exhausting, because I'm just set on this frequency, and that's the frequency I vibrate on. And I expect, what I found is that most people get some of it.
Yeah.
And, whatever. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. That's fine. I'm my own cup of tea, god damn it.
Your own Darjeeling.
That's right. So, Slingshot, what's your EST?
I think this is the subtlest of cop comedies.
Yeah.
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 It's all so to the point where, I mean, it's almost like, could you turn up the mic? Boom guy, where are you? Get in there. Jesus. Don't put the 90210 boom guy. Oh, he's not been born yet? Damn it.
Not
like,
been born. This is only like 5 years earlier.
I know. But it's funny to me.
Okay. I like it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's super subtle. Yeah, because Chevy Chase has very subtle humor. I mean,
He does.
Christmas Vacation is similar. First time I watched it, I was like, what is the deal with this?
I heard Chevy say at one point that there's two types of characters he does really, really well. The over the top smartass and the buffoon. And Fletch is the over the top smartass, and Clark W. Griswold is the buffoon.
Yeah.
And he's equally great in both of those kind of things. It's when you ask him to do something different that he does not quite as good at it. But
at least he knows that.
He does know that. It seems that he knows that. But he's great at those. And that's what Fletch is so... Fletch is kind of... Did you see the John Hamm Fletch? Die Fletch?
No, but we saw that was listed, and we love John Hamm, so now we want to watch it.
I liked it. I need to watch it again. From what I hear, it's more closely tied to the tone of the books.
Okay.
And so it's the same. You can tell it's the same character, but he goes about things in a totally different way. And the vibe is very different, but it's also funny. It's not as funny as this, and in not the same ways. But I liked it quite a bit. But again, I've only seen it once, and maybe on my third viewing, it's like, holy God, that's funny. You know.
I love any time people let John Hamm stretch his comedic wings.
Yeah, he's funny. Yep.
He's many things.
Uh-oh. Are we in Paul Newman territory here?
We are.
Oh boy. Listen. Slightly more age appropriate.
Well,
he wasn't
slightly more.
Well, I'm just, I'm saying Paul Newman was what was he, like 61 when you were born?
I never had a chance.
No.
But that's a good thing.
You missed the train on that one. John Hamm's not even 61 now, so you're in way better shape.
Way better shape. Yeah. Anyway, yes, John Hamm.
Well, good luck. I mean, I'm sorry, Walter, but good luck.
There's no hope.
For Walter.
No, I mean, there's no hope for me. Like,
Walter already knows he has no chance. It's fine. All right, so I think that once again we have proven my theory that everything comes back to Aaron Spelling.
Indeed, we
even have. Fletch.
Even Fletch.
Which is makes me very happy. Next week, I think that we landed on Splendor in the Grass.
Ooh, okay.
We have to find out if that's available, because I've never this is one I've never seen and one you have, so it's a flip around kind of situation for us.
Well, and I've seen most of it. I don't remember if I got to see the whole thing. But
oh yeah, this is available. We can watch this.
Young Warren Beatty, Natalie Wood. God, this is...
And yeah, more Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood is our Rosetta Stone.
Yep.
Which is so weird. It's not like I grew up being a Natalie Wood fan, but we just keep like finding movies that she's in that relate to 90210.
I mean, that's fair, because I became a fan of hers when I saw Gypsy. The first time, and yeah, she's just one of those, like, and watching her now, I'm like, I don't even know if you're that good, but you are captivating. And in that era, that's all you had to have.
You know that I played the small but pivotal role of Uncle Jocko in a high school musical rendition of Gypsy. You ought to see them balloons. See, I still remember some of my dialogue. Very nice. Sing out, June.
That's Sing Out, Louise.
Everybody has to sing out.
That's true. Anyway, yeah, shout outs to Gypsy. We're getting another revival because another Broadway actress has gotten old enough to do it, so that's time for a revival.
Who's doing it?
It's going to be Audra McDonald, which will be fantastic. But again, Dear Broadway, maybe let's write more for women of a certain age than just Mama Rose, because eventually you're going to get tired. You know what? People are going to still go because we're on a Sondheim renaissance.
Sondheim.
It's a great time and also not a great time to be alive, but at least we have a ton of Sondheim.
There you go. So we'll take that.
Yeah.
So join us here next week, Cheese Meisters. But until then, cheers. I'll have a steak sandwich and a steak sandwich.